Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode has been brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum to be held on November 7th and 8th of 2022 in Verona, Italy. This year will be an exclusively in-person edition. The main theme of the event will be all-round wine communication, and tickets are on sale now. The second early bird discount will be available until September 18th. For more information, please visit us at winetowine.net.
Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as we journey to some of Italy's most beautiful places in the company of those who know them best, the families who grow grapes and make fabulous wines. Through their stories, we will learn not just about their wines, but also about their ways of life, the local and regional foods and specialities that pair naturally with their wines, and the most beautiful places to visit. We have a wonderful journey of discovery ahead of us, and I hope you will join me. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we're in the wine hills of Collio, located in Friuli, Venezia Giulia, tucked almost on the border with Slovenia. My guest today is Elija Muzic of Cantina Muzic, who will tell us about a fascinating, beautiful, and diverse corner of Italy where wine, food, architecture, history all reflect a multicultural past, and which is the source today of some of the most exciting white wines in all of Italy. Thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you so much. I'm very fine, thanks. And thanks for the opportunity for being present at this famous podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, I want our listeners who may not be familiar with Friuli, Venezia Giulia, or certainly the Collio, to gain a picture of where you are. So can you describe for our listeners Collio countryside, San Floriano? I know it's a very beautiful place. And tell us what makes Collio unique and so special.
Yes, of course. So starting from viewing the Italy in general, Friuli Venezia Giulia is a region in northeastern part of Italy, on the border with Austria and on the border with Slovenia. We are in Friuli Venezia Giulia on the east side of Friuli Venezia Giulia. The main country is the country of Gorizia. The main city is Gorizia, and our winery is located in San Floriano del Collio. That is a village, a small city of about 800 inhabitants on the hills of Collio producing area. So Collio area is a hilly place located for 1/3 in Italy and 2/3 of the surface in Slovenia. I mean, about Collio, I'm talking about the weather conditions, the soil conditions, and of course the growing conditions and varieties grown in our area. So we are on the hills, on the border with Slovenia, in Italy, but on the border with Slovenia.
Actually, that's very important because, of course, it's a reminder that this is an area that has had many wars fought over the centuries, but certainly in World War I and World War II, and these borders have divided communities in some ways.
Yes, of course, our area in general, the east part of Friuli Venezia Giulia, mainly during the First World War, was a very hot place, and of course the borders were redrawn a lot of times. And at the moment, like I told you a couple of minutes ago, the Collio production area is located in Italy. In the Slovenia, the same area is named with the name of Brda. But the conditions of the soil and of the varieties of the weather are the same. It's just a border, a state border that cut this territory in two parts, of course.
Okay. Well, I know that the San Floriano and Collio has a history of wine growing dating back centuries and millennia. But in fact, this quality production of wines from Collio and the specialization really began after World War II. Is that right? And tell us a little bit about your family history and how your family have come to be making wines in Collio.
Yes, of course. In general, in Italy, after the Second World War, the techniques and the know-how of vinification, of enology, of viticulture grow up. And of course, also our area, the Collio area, grows in quality. A lot of farms that were concentrated on production of grapes and also of fruits. For example, here in San Floriano, after Second World War, it was a lot of fruit production like peaches and apricots. In general, after that, in the 80s and 90s, all the territory was grown up with vineyards. And at the moment, Collio area is very popular for mainly for white wine production. So for the growing of white wine varieties like Ribolla Gialla, Friulano or Tokai Friulano and Malvasia. Of course, we grow also other international varieties, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon, Chardonnay, and others. So mainly after the Second World War, the wine production quality improves in our areas. For my family, so for our winery, so the winery is a family winery. It was founded about 1927, so before the Second World War. But just in 1990, we started with bottling the wine. So after that, in this last 30 years, we grow up our production. At the moment, we work about 25 hectares of vineyards, mainly in San Floriano del Collio, of course, and mainly of white wine varieties. The production is carried out in our winery that is, of course, located in San Floriano del Collio, and we produce about 120,000 bottles of wine per year. You may know that this production is not a very big production, but if you compare these numbers with other cellars that are not a family cellar, so it is a very good work and a busy work. All my family works in our company, so I have my mother and my father that starts, of course, the bottling process in 1990s, and at the moment they are, of course, they still work in our winery, and me and my brother, that is 1 year younger, we do a lot of work in vineyards, mainly in vineyards and in cellar.
Okay, so it's a real family business still, a small family business. Now you've mentioned Collio and San Floriano as being particularly suited to production of high quality white wines. Friuli, of course, has many wine growing regions and designations such as Isonzo or Colli Orientale del Friuli. What makes Collio, this small area right on the border with Slovenia, what makes Collio, the territory of Collio, so well adapted to both autochthonous as well as international white grape varieties?
Yes, of course, the region, Friuli Venezia Giulia, is not very big, but it has one very important particularity. I mean about the middle position from the seaside, the Adriatic Sea, and the Alps. So we speak about a position in the middle between the sea, so high temperatures and high humidity, and the Alps, so the mountains where you have in general lower temperatures, a lot of wind that dries the air, of course. And so the particularity of Collio is that Collio is located exactly on the hills at the middle of these two extreme locations. So the Alps on one side, in the northern part of Friuli, and the seaside in the southern part of Friuli. So our hills are particular because we have the temperatures during the day of the sea, so high temperatures during the summer period, and during the night. So during the night we have lower temperatures from the Alps, and this type of temperature excursion permits to our grapes to grow up, of course, in sugar, of course, but also in flavors and aromas that are much different if compared with other wine growing regions in Friuli. In Friuli, you can also find flat productions area, like you talked about Friuli Zonzo, also Friuli Latisana and Friuli Grave, and then you can find hilly places of productions, and like Collio and Collio Orientali, and then in the northern part where you can find the Alps. In general, the wine production is very, very low, of course.
Italian Wine Podcast. If you think you love wine as much as we do, then give us a like and a follow anywhere you get your pods.
Okay, so that's a really good picture, this diurnal temperature variation between night and day, helping for flavors and aromas to develop. And also this particular soil of Collio, the Ponca. What is this?
Yes, so in Collio we have this particular type of mineral soil, Ponca. The Ponca is a couple of layers of Marna and Arenaria. Marna and Arenaria are two types of minerals. Is like a very fragile stone of compacted sand and compacted, I know the truth word for argilla. And this type of soil is very particular because with a low working process of working of the soil, this mineral breaks up and releases the minerality that is picked up by the vines, and of course is located into the grape.
Sure. No, that's very clear. It's this mix of chalky clay and sandstone, this fleece soil that.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. If you move from the hills, so from the Collio area down to the flat area of Isonzo, for example, that is the closest production area to the Collio. From our winery is about 5 kilometers away. The soils and also the temperatures changes in a couple of kilometers. So it means that the soil is not characterized in Isonzo area by the Ponca, but you have these big stones that remembers like the stones you can find in rivers and in the flat places. So the temperature and the soil type in a couple of kilometers can change, of course, when you travel from the hills, so from Collio to the Isonzo area.
Okay, well, let's talk about two of your wines that I think are very typical of Collio, very important in Collio, and wines that perhaps I think our listeners would like to taste and learn more about. The Ribolla Gialla and the Friulano.
Yes, these two varieties are the most famous local varieties in Collio. These are two white wines, so the particularity of each of this variety is that you can see the differences starting from the vine. So the Friulano has a little bit smaller leaves. The Ribolla Gialla has a little bit bigger leaves. Also, the grape of the Ribolla Gialla is very big. The grape of Tokai Friulano is a little bit smaller. For the wine characteristics, so the wine flavors and aromas of these two varieties. So Ribolla Gialla is a very, very light wine. It means that you can find Ribolla Gialla with about 12 to 13 percentage of alcoholic content. Friulano in general, it has a little bit highest alcoholic content, and Friulano is not light like Ribolla Gialla. So in general, if you want to drink Collio during a dinner, in general, you must start, or you shall start with Ribolla Gialla, and then at the middle between the first dishes and the second dishes, you can switch Ribolla Gialla with Friulano. So these are two completely different varieties that you can find in Collio area and also in Friuli Venezia Giulia.
Okay, and actually, in talking about food, all of the wines of Collio and indeed of Friuli Venezia Giulia, these are above all wines to enjoy with food, with the gastronomy of the area. Now, you mentioned that this the border with Austria, with Slovenia, this area that has historically been passed through and conquered at times. That's also had an effect, of a delicious effect on the gastronomy of the region. Can we talk about some of the foods of your area and how they pair with your wines?
Yes, of course. So Friuli Venezia Giulia is famous not also for the wines, of course, it's famous also for some typical dishes or some food that you can find mainly in Friuli Venezia Giulia. So starting with some light dishes, we have a small location in Friuli Venezia Giulia famous for the production of ham. So ham and cheese that in general you can enjoy it at the beginning of a dinner. In general, you can.
This would be, sorry, this would be the prosciutto di Cormons or the prosciutto di San Daniele.
Exactly. In general, this type of prosciutto you can taste with this prosciutto you can taste some light wines like, for example, Ribolla Gialla or Malvasia. When then you switch to the other dishes, in Friuli is very typical the frico. The frico is a mixture of potatoes and cheese. That is, you must put them together, and then you need to cook in the kitchen. So, and of course, this is a dish is much more. This has much more aroma, so you need to have some most hard wine like Friulano, of course, that has much more important aromas to of course to be in contact with the food, of course.
Great. Those are two very typical food experiences. I think everyone will want to try the beautifully delicate, sweet prosciutto di San Daniele. But even more special, perhaps, is this prosciutto di Osvaldo di Cormons, lightly smoked sometimes. Is that right?
Exactly, and produced in Cormons, that is part of Collio production area. So is a food that is produced so in a couple of kilometers from here. So it's very local.
And I guess you're also able to enjoy, as you say, this proximity of the sea, the Adriatic, as well as the mountains where some of the great cheeses, such as Montasio, come from. So you have this gastronomy that links sea and mountain. What would be some typical primi piatti, then, most typical of your area?
So we have some like I told about the frico, of course, and if you move a little bit closer to the seaside, of course, a lot of fishes. We have a couple of areas where the fishing is very important. Some cities that are important for the seaside tourism, like Grado, for example, and Lignano Sabbiadoro, where in general you can eat all the types of fish that grows in our Adriatic Sea. And of course, the best way to have a dinner or a lunch with a fish dish or fish dishes is to have a bottle of white wine. If this wine is from Collio, is much better because the enjoying of fish with Collio wine, a fresh wine, is
So perhaps a Friulano with the peppery broetto from Grado, then this
yes,
fish,
exactly,
a medley of fish.
exactly.
And we also haven't mentioned another very important and typical grape variety, the Piccoli, which makes an extraordinary wine. Tell us a little bit about this grape variety.
Yes, so this grape variety is one of the local varieties in Friuli Venezia Giulia and also in the Collio area. Is a very particular variety because it has a white grape, but is a variety that is that for the production of sweet wines. So it means that the grapes are picked up in general at the middle of October. So after the picking up of red grapes, so after the Cabernet Sauvignon, after the Merlot, it means that the grapes dries on the vines, and then you can pick up the grapes. For our winery, we pick up the grapes and then we dry a little bit more the grapes in the winery. And after a period of fermentation and maceration of the skins with their juice and their wine, is aged in oak barrels and then bottled. You must know that at the moment we are selling, so we have on the market the 2015 vintage of Picolit, and for the other white wine varieties, we are selling the 2021. That means that the production of the Picolit, the production phases are much longer than other varieties because this variety is very particular.
Okay, so the grapes actually undergo the drying on the vine rather than as a pasito, rather than being harvested. Is that right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
And resulting in this luscious, very exquisite and unique dessert wine that you only really there's so little of it around. And as you say, it needs this aging and it can improve. It's very complex and it's one of the real specialties that I urge everybody who visits Friuli Venezia Giulia to try.
Of course, also the production is very, very low. You must know that on 1 hectare of Ribolla Gialla or Tokai Friulano or Malvasia, you can produce in Collio up to 7 to 8 tons of grapes per hectare. For the Piccolit, you can, in general, you can produce about 2 tons, 2.5 tons of grapes per hectare. Is the production is very low because the grapes cannot develop all the berries that has during the flowering period.
Okay.
So about 80% of the flowers at the end of growing dries and drops down. So they will not develop into a berry.
My goodness, that's a remarkably low yield. And I guess it shows what a special wine it is that wine growers will still persist with this historic variety because the result is so exquisite.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been a real pleasure to enter into the world of Collio, to learn about where Cantina Muzic is located, to learn about your wines and the history and also the foods of the region. So it's an area I love to visit. I hope our listeners will jump on a train or rent a car if they're perhaps visiting Venice, because it's only a couple of hours north, and discover this wonderful region and this smaller area of Collio and the Cantina Muzic. So thank you very much, and I look forward to visiting myself.
Thanks for this opportunity, and you know that we are waiting for you and for all visitors that want to be a couple of days in our area, in our vineyards, in our territory. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Grazie e a presto.
Grazie, a presto.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode brought to you by the Wine to Wine Business Forum 2022. This year will mark the 9th edition of the forum, to be held on November 7th and 8th, 2022, in Verona, Italy. Remember, the second early bird discount on tickets will be available until September 18th. For more information, please visit us at winetowine.net. Guys, I'm Joy Livingston, and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love, and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to italianwinepodcast.com.